Greetings, Zimbabwe, Africa, and the world. Welcome to In Conversation with Trevor, brought to you by Titan Law. I go beyond the headlines and beyond the sensational. Today, I'm in conversation with Samkeliso Tshuma, the executive director of the Girls Table, a mentor and an activist. Enjoy this quality conversation. Samkeliso Tshuma, welcome to In Conversation with Trevor. I'm so happy that you have created the time to join me today.
Thank you very much, Trevor. Thank you for inviting me. I've been following this platform and I'm so honored. I was saying, do I even qualify to be here? So thank you so much. I don't take this time for granted and I don't take your platform for granted. I honor it and I respect it. Thank you for asking me to do this.
You deserve to be on this platform, Samkeliso, and I'll tell you why I decided that we should talk to you, because your story, Samkeliso, represents the story of many in your generation. You are the voice of, I think, a lot of young people, particularly women. And also, I think that it's about time that your generation and my generation had a conversation about where this country is and where it is going. So your voice becomes usually important. And also that at the end of the day, it's really your future that is at stake more than my generation's future. And I think it's important that as we go forward, we hear more and more of voices from people such as yourself. So you absolutely deserve to be here.
Thank you for saying that, because I had so much doubt.
Right. So you are Samkeliso Tshuma. You are the executive director of the Girls Table. You are a mentor. You are an activist. You are an influencer. You are passionate about voter education. You are also a young entrepreneur. In a nutshell, if I asked you, who is Samkeliso Tshuma, what would you say to the viewers?
I always struggle with that question because we always answer it by saying what we do more than who we are, because I feel like we don't know who we are. So I always get confused because I end up saying I do this, like my roles. But Samkeliso Tshuma is a daughter. She was born in Plumtree in 1984 to Mr. and Mrs. Tshuma. My dad passed away in 2012. And I have a young sister called Svahle. But I call myself a Bulawayo girl because I was raised by Bulawayo, but I was born in Plumtree, a town in Ngani. So that's what I can say about me, because if I start going on, I'll end up saying my roles, and I feel like roles don't define me. Those are other things that I do, like an activist and entrepreneur. That's not who I am. I'm Samkeliso Tshuma.
You're Samkeliso Tshuma. Tell me about what your upbringing instilled in you, which is carried on with you and reflects in who you are right now.
As I said, I was born in Plumtree in a very small house, Trevor. I remember I shared with these young girls 2 weeks back, a small house in what we call MIX. It was a 1-bedroom house and I don't know if it's a lounge or a kitchen. And I grew up in that small house with my mom, my granny, and my aunts, But I saw my aunts and my mom being fighters and being people who wanted more for themselves. So that's the environment that I grew up in. And my dad was also a Plumtree boy, and my mom a Plumtree girl. But they wanted more for themselves and they moved to Bulawayo. I think I was grade 2. And for me, seeing that I grew up in that small house, and seeing my parents wanting more, and they were business people, I started to want more as well. So they instilled that thing of being a go-getter. I feel like I got the spirit from my parents, especially my mom, of wanting more for myself. And I know that right now in Zimbabwe, it's so hard and we are struggling with so many things, but there's something always that drives me that says, you know what, there's more out there. there's just more. So I'm a go-getter and I just want more. So that's the spirit that I have. I think that it came from me and watching my parents and watching my grandmother and all my aunts in that small house. Because most of them, they now live overseas, even though I'm still here with my mom, but there's still that need and desire to do more and to be better than where we come from. So I just want more. If someone has to describe me, I'm a person who wants more in life.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about what a person young as you who wants more does in this kind of environment that we are in, because right there one begins to see tensions. You want more in a society that might not have more. But anyway, let's move on to now Samkeliso, in terms of your job as the executive director of the Girls Table. Talk to me about what you do on a day basis. What does this job entail, and why do you do it?
I'm all things women, I'm all things girls, right? And I've always been fascinated by empowerment. And as you mentioned earlier, that my voice is needed. And there's so many young people, young women especially, that need to hear their voices. And in Zimbabwe especially, like the media, you realize there's always the same women that are given the voice. But for me, I felt like, there's so many voices that we've not heard, that will bring fresh ideas that can change this country, that can change the narrative. So the reason why the Girls Table was created to amplify those voices, the voices that we'll never get to hear about, like when you open Chronicle, when you open Daily News. So with the Girls Table, all we do is amplify those voices. We look for young people that don't get the platform, that don't get to be heard. And we ask them for views and their perspective on different topics, whether it's child marriages, teenage pregnancies. We need to hear their views, because I feel like if we're going to talk about equality or inclusion, we need voices that will never get the platforms that everyone else gets. So at the Girls Table, we push for those voices. We encourage young women to speak, because we grew up being told, a young woman should not say anything. You only speak when you're asked to speak. You don't comment. Politics is not for young women. So at the Girls Table, we encourage young women to speak. I encourage young women to speak, because if I don't say anything, who will know what I feel about a certain topic? Who will know how I feel about the government? So at the Girls Table, that's what we encourage. Speak, say something. I don't believe, Trevor, in the voice of the voiceless. I'm one person who doesn't believe in that. I always say the reason why we say that is because we're not giving people the platform, a safe space for them to speak. But everyone has a voice. Some people, their voices might be cracky, or they may lack confidence. But if you give me a platform and you ask me to speak on 1 or 2, 3 things, I will definitely have something to say. So that's what we're trying to do at the Girls Table, give you the platform to speak, a platform where you feel safe and you know that you are important, your voice matters, your ideas matter. You don't have to be so and so for someone to hear you. Just because you're Samkeliso Tshuma is more than enough. So that's what we're trying to do. So we organize workshops, we organize dialogues and conversations for young people to gather and to speak on issues that matter to them. That's our work as the Girls Table.
So you say you encourage them to speak. What do you find to be the reason why they don't speak out? Why they have to be encouraged? Are they afraid? What are they afraid of? Why don't they speak out?
I think it's our upbringing, as I mentioned earlier, that when girls are socialized, they're made to feel that their voices and their opinions don't matter. That's why when you host meetings where there's a man and a woman, we always back down and we let the men speak, because we've been taught that, the woman should be silent, a woman should be submissive. So that has grown into us, and now we believe it. Even if we think, I'm confident I can speak, but whenever a man comes in the same room, somehow we start to submit and we don't say anything and we allow the men to speak. So the girls have seen that and they think that's the root and that's what they're supposed to do. So they need us to say, listen, your voice matters, say something, speak. And the other thing is, in our society, especially in Zimbabwe, the environment is not safe for women. We have seen what has happened to someone like Joanna Mamombe, the honorable MP. And so many young women end up shying away from speaking up, because you start to think, okay, am I going to put myself out there? What's going to happen to me as a young woman? Because there's sexual harassment. And that's what I get all the time when people say, are you sure? Are you safe? Are you going to speak out? What if something happens to you, you know? So that's why some women end up shying away, especially young women. But for me, I'm always saying, you know what? You rather die for something that you believe in than for you to keep quiet. And no one can really say exactly what you want the way you want it unless and until you say it, you know, because we can't assume. We don't want people to assume what you want. Because right now, even our leaders, they're assuming about what we want. They have not taken time to speak to us as individuals, as young women, to say, what exactly do you want? So that's why I'm for, you know, encouraging more young women to speak and not to always wait for someone else to speak for them.
And what do you find, Samkeliso, to be the issues that are top of mind as far as these young women and the young people that you engage with at the girls' table to be? What are the issues that are uppermost, that are burning in their hearts?
Trevor, my generation wants jobs. They want employment, you know, because even when we're inviting them to these meetings, to be honest, they are looking for $10 that they're going to take back home, you know, because most of the meetings that we organize as the CSOs, we invite them and we give them money for data, like data reinvestment. So most of these people, they attend, you can see that, you know what, we're not dealing with what they want. You know, they want employment, because if they had employment, they'll not be attending all these meetings just to sit or to hear. They want jobs. And our country, you know how it is, and there's no employment. So, and I always say to people, you know what, the jobs that you're looking for, we're not going to get them as long as and until we fix our politics. Our politics and our economics, they're going hand in hand. As an entrepreneur myself, when I came back from Australia, I assumed, Trevor, that, you know what, I'm just going to get into business. I'm going to mind my business. I will not care about the politics. But once I was now in business, then I realized, you know what, the politics of this country tend to influence the business environment. So I always say to young women, as much as you want employment, you need to also speak in towards politics and into politics, because you'll not get the job that you want. The employment creation that you're looking for is not going to happen. We need to fix the politics. So to answer you, they need jobs. Young women need jobs. They need to take care of home. You know, they need to take care of their children, because most of them now, they have children that they need to fend for. So it's jobs, and obviously the other issues like social issues, where we talk about service delivery, where there's no water, like Trevor and Bulawayo. The last year was hard for us because we are failing to access water. So when you're speaking to young women, you have to be mindful too, they're coming from a city where they're struggling to get water. So it's no electricity as well, you know. So we deal with these things, but at the end of the day, I always remind them that, you know what, it's all politics. And most people want to shy away from politics, but there's no way. We need to fix the politics. We need to be involved in choosing the leaders that we have to be in it.
And also you have been involved in, you were involved rather in 2017 and 2018 in, you know, voter education and encouraging people to know their constitution. Are these issues that the young women are interested in? Do you find that they engage with these issues?
It's a struggle, you know. That's why I remember I mentioned that sometimes they attend just to get the $10, and I don't blame them, because life is really hard. They need income. But I always ask myself, if there was no incentive, if there was no $10, would these people be interested? And youth in Zimbabwe, they are very apathetic when it comes to the issues of governance, politics, voter registration. And I remember in 2017, we used to do door to door, you know, trying to speak to young people. And you know, the question they will ask you, like, so when I vote, when I register to vote, where am I going to vote? When you're like, it's not my job to tell you, you know. And I engage with people on Twitter a lot, and I realize that people still don't understand that every citizen has the right to be involved in the issues of governance, in how the countries are run. They just think, what, if I register to vote and vote, I'm done. There's no need for me to engage anymore. And there's so much apathy, Trevor. It's so frustrating for me because I know how important it is for me as a citizen to be involved, because I take Zimbabwe as my business, so when you have a business, you have to be involved. You want to see that everything runs smoothly. You are involved in the day-to-day running. But our young people, they just think, what, if I hustle, Zimbabwe has killed us when it comes to hustling. You hustle, you don't care about anything else. So it's very, very disheartening for me sometimes. I'm like, what, maybe I should just go back overseas and forget, because young people are not interested. And it's always the same young people that come to these meetings without you forcing them, and others don't see the need. I feel like we have not taught them, active participation, citizen engagement. We've felt there as individuals or CSOs and even as the government to really tell people, what, it's your duty, it's your right, it's your responsibility to be involved in these issues, in these processes, So we still have a long way to go, but I'm inspired by Stacey Abrams. I see and I'm like, what, there's hope. It means we need to work harder, because I read a story and she was saying that it took her more than 10 years just to get things moving. So it means that for me, as someone who's interested in young people being interested in governance issues, it means I need to work harder. So because the apathy is very, very, very high, and because of high unemployment, it's going to be higher, and because of what's happening right now with elections, that the people that they vote for, they're not getting into power, all this mess is going to make young people more apathetic. So it's a long road, but some of us have to keep pushing.
It's a long road. It's frustrating. It's disheartening. I get a sense somewhere that, like you said, you feel like maybe I need to go back to Australia. So I must ask you, why do you keep on doing it, Samkeliso?
Trevor, I don't know if it'll make sense, but when I was in Australia, I made a deal with God that I'll go back to my country and serve my country. And I've always felt, even before I left Zim, I always felt like, my calling was in Zim. I felt like my calling was to serve Zim. And I used to have dreams, Trevor. And I know someone who listens, they'll think, oh my goodness, what is she talking about? But I used to have dreams. And I'll be standing on a pulpit. And like I'll have, how Bishop Tudor Bismarck always carries the Zimbabwean flag.
Yeah.
And I used to dream, like standing with the Zimbabwean flag and praying for it and being involved in the issues that had to do with Zimbabwe. But I didn't understand then. But when I came back from Australia after making a deal with God, I had various pastors, like different pastors. Like I'll go to a church just to visit, and the pastor will call me and say, God is calling you for, leadership in Zimbabwe. And I'm like, what are you talking about? But I was always fascinated by the stories of Daniel. Daniel's one of my biggest mentors in the Bible. People like Daniel, people like Joseph. And I saw them serving, the country that God had called them to. And I used to think, so God can use me beyond the four walls of the church. And I felt like I was called to do the same thing, but it wasn't clear until 2017 when we were preparing for 2018 elections. I remember God saying to me, write letters to different churches in Bulawayo and ask if you could encourage young people to register to vote. And I'm like, are you sure, God? And I spoke to my pastor and I said to him, I have this urge to encourage young people to vote. So he was like, what, start with our church and see. And then it happened that on Twitter, I saw my tate and she had started a drive for young people. So I said, let me just DM this young lady and ask if I could add young people. And she was like, Sam, come and join Wild. They are looking for young people to volunteer so that they can do this. And everything just started happening. And I knew that this was God calling me. I felt like this was my purpose. So as much as I get frustrated, Trevor, I feel alive when I do this. I feel alive when I speak to young people about being involved in these processes, political or decision-making processes. I feel like this is what I was meant to do. As much as I was called I wasn't called just to, serving in the church, but I was called to serve in the nation, to serve my country. So I'm happy that I'm doing this, as much as it's frustrating. I will not change it for the world.
So you don't regret leaving Australia and coming back home? You don't regret leaving the diaspora and coming back home?
No, I don't. And people always like frustrate me when I talk about that, because they'll be like, Samuel, why did you come back? You're so silly. You should have stayed in Australia. And I'm like, you know what? You guys will never understand the purpose and the deal that I made with God. And actually yesterday, this morning I was talking to a friend of mine, and she's like, she wants to leave Africa. And I'm like, you know what? Some of us were not called to leave Africa, and some of us will not leave Africa. Some of us will not leave Zimbabwe. And I even used the example of the children of Israel, Trevor, that some of them remained. The Bible says that there was a remnant that remained behind. And I'm one of those people that believe we are the remnant that are going to leave, that are going to be left behind. And I'm not saying people should not leave Zimbabwe, but for me, I feel like this is where I was called. This is where I belong. This is where I feel like I will add something of value, because I think, okay, if I go back to Australia, where am I going to serve? What am I going to do? So I feel like the opportunity for me to serve my country, to serve God, is here. So no, I don't miss maybe the days when there's no electricity and I'm like, you know what, I didn't have this issue in Australia, or when there's no water. But otherwise, I'm happy. I'm happy home. People should not say someone's happy at home, everything's good. No, you know what? Every country has its challenges. And some of us are called, to make a change, or to try to make a change in Zimbabwe. So yeah, I'm happy here. Yeah.
Let's turn now to your education, Samkeliso. So you have an economics degree from the University of South Africa, and you also studied applied finance at Griffith University in Australia. How easy was it for you to get this education? I suspect that your parents must have sacrificed to send you to Australia and to get you to study with UNISA. Talk to me about that.
Okay. Actually, my journey has ups and downs, Trevor, and I'm grateful that I have wonderful parents that sacrifice a lot. So before I studied with UNISA, I went to Rhodes University. So when I went to Rhodes University, it was straight after high school. And you know how back then our parents, like, they were remember, I have a strong mother. I have like a strong
as strong as you take after her genes. I can see that.
I'm kind of super strong. So she did everything for me, like for Rhodes. Like, she knew that you go there and you do a BCom, like it was the thing then. BCom, Bachelor of Commerce, was the thing then. So when I went to Rhodes University, my first year was fine. Come to second year, when you're supposed to choose a major, I was so confused. I was like, what am I supposed to do, by the way? And I struggled. So I started picking up subjects and dropping them. So at Rhodes, you're supposed to have certain credits for you to continue. And I did not have that, because I kept dropping subjects. Not that I was failing, but I kept dropping subjects. And I got expelled at Rhodes. Can you imagine? Rhodes University, the university. Wow. And my mom, as I said, she was very strong. She was like, my child is not going back. You need to figure out something. And then we applied to Monash. And when we applied to Monash, we paid the fees. And when I got to Monash, they're like, listen, we're sorry, we are not taking you. After paying Trevor, after paying the fees. And my mom thought, okay, like, this child is not coming back to Zim to sit. So I have to think of something to do. And then I applied to UNISA.
Why didn't Monash take you, Samkeliso? Why didn't Monash take you?
I don't know what happened, Trevor. I think it was God. Like, I don't even know what happened, because we had paid the fees at Monash and I was supposed to start. And for some weird reason, they called and they emailed saying that they can't take me anymore. It's still a mystery to me even today. Mm-hmm. I don't understand. So okay. I joined. I started with UNISA. I had to start afresh, Trevor. I had credits from my first year at Rhodes. I forgot about those. And I said, you know what, I love economics. I said, let me imagine economics and see. Trevor, I worked so hard. I remember my last year I did, I think 8 subjects or 9 subjects just to finish in one semester, because everyone, like all my friends were now done and I was busy lagging behind. And I completed my degree. I was happy I did well. And I spoke to my mom and I was like, you know what, for my master's, I want to go outside the country. I want to go overseas. And I applied to Griffith University. And that's where I went for my master's and I did my applied finance. But it wasn't easy, but I'm a woman of faith. So how I got to Australia, I made a deal with God again. And I said, you know what, take me to Australia. I'll do this, I'll do B, I'll do C, I'll do D. And I remember for my fees, my first semester, because my parents were like, because I went in 2008 in July, and Zimbabwe started being, the economy was not doing so well. So I said to God, you'll find someone to sponsor me. So there's a friend of ours who said, you know what, I hear someone wants to go to Australia. I can pay for her first semester. That's how I went to Australia. So my Australian life, it was God's providence. And my parents did work hard. I did not get a scholarship or anything. My parents really went out of their way to make sure that I got educated. But as I say that, it was, my mom's always complaining. She used to say, you and God, when you start talking to God about certain things, we suffer. We can't say anything. So it was truly God for me, how I went to Australia, even coming back. And the things that I do now, I would say my parents and definitely God.
So you come back from Australia, Samkeliso, and you start into business and you establish a manufacturing company called Bootle Bay Marketing. Talk to me in the first instance about how you were able to, first of all, what was the inspiration behind that? What was the motivation? And then secondly, how you were able to fund it as to start up.
Okay, so I'm a doer, and I love to create things. I love to create and I love to do. So what had happened was, like, we had a friend of ours, like a family friend of ours. I think they used to import a certain brand from Botswana into Zim. So this person was like, you know what, Samu, I think you are very clever. You can go to these people in Botswana and ask if you could get the permit to do even a distribution deal. Then I was like, you know what, let me see if I can try and create my own here in Zim, and start my own brand. And I started to do research on how to start a bottling company, what I needed, if there were certificates, which ministry to go to. So I started putting all these things together, the machinery that we needed. And unfortunately, when you're new into the business, some people take advantage of you. So the person who sold us the machinery sold us a domestic machinery, for domestic use. So I thought, it doesn't matter. For the meantime, once I'm still learning the business, learning the process, I can still use the machinery for domestic use. And because it started small, it was a very small business, and we used to use reverse osmosis using castle water. It did not need funding, because my parents were there, they were able to help me with funding. But as time went on, because by the time when I was now in the business, we had competitors like ZLG, and ZLG moved water there's no man's business, and their water cost 22 cents, and that was my cost price. Imagine competing with ZLG that was charging 22 cents, and we had chefs as well. But I was very lucky because I had people like Chitrin, Mr. Chitrin, who was very, very, very kind and helpful, and he understood the business and he wanted to support a young person. So he used to say, don't worry about this, I will help you. We'll take your water to Victoria Falls, because in Victoria Falls, the price was better, so even if my price here was high, they could play with it in Victoria Falls. So he was very supportive. Trade power, it was trade power then. So it was okay, we did okay. But because our client was trade power, so when trade power closed down, we were also forced to close down because we needed machinery. Because everything that we did, it was all manual, from clothing, the what we call it, like packaging, it was all manual. So you can't compete with organizations that are doing everything with a full plant. So we're not doing well in terms of our cost price and the fact that we're doing small matches, because water business is a volumes business. You can't compete if you're still, in the doing small numbers. So I was forced to close down, but it's the business that I enjoyed. As I said, that I like to create. Like I used to get a high, Trevor, going to the shops and seeing, the bottle, and we called it Brook, seeing, Brook there. It gave me a high, and we used to do juices as well. Like we had tasty juices. It gave me something, it made me feel like, this is what I was meant to do. I love to create things. And I'm sure if Zimbabwe becomes all right in the next 5 to 10 years, I'll definitely go back into this business because I love to create. I love to see products on the shelf. So it was mostly funded, but there was a time when I applied for a youth loan, and STEMP came through. But that's the thing, like with water business, you need serious capital. You don't need 20,000, like it needs millions. And as a young person, where do I get the collateral from for me to say, okay, once you give me the loan, you can use my house as a collateral. And I think that's why most young people, they struggle with business, because even getting access to loans, you need collateral and you can't have that. So that was my downfall. I just couldn't get more money.
And then you went into, trading in the food sector. Talk to me about that briefly too.
Because I'm a doer, Trevor, I couldn't sit at home. I went to Botswana, like by the hustle. So I started moving around, and I saw this 3 kg macaroni, and I was like, I've never seen this in Bulawayo. So I spoke to the manager there. I said, I'll be interested in taking this to Bulawayo. How much are they? Are you going to give me discount? And these were cracked macaroni, so meaning that they were rejects. So they started packing those rejects, and the price was very good. And he was like, no, take this back home and see if you can get clients for it. So when I came home, I started moving around. Like I spoke to different buyers in Bulawayo. I spoke to retail buyers. I spoke to wholesale buyers. Like, listen, I can bring in this macaroni at this price. So I need orders. And I got orders. And I remember the first truck that came within a day. I think it was like less than 2 hours. I was done with the truck, like a 30-ton truck.
Wow.
And happy, because I love doing that. But you know how businesses in Zimbabwe, they don't last because of the environment, So I started bringing in maize from Zambia as well, because I realized that there was a market for maize as well. Like we used to supply with friends of mine, used to supply millers and also national food. But one day you are in, and then the next day you're told you can't import maize because only GMB is allowed to import. Now we come into government deal. So that's how most businesses, we ended up being forced to take a break. Yeah.
Given the experience that you've had in the 2 enterprises that you've tried that you've started rather, and encountered problems, what advice would you give to young people in terms of the lessons that these experiences have taught you?
Trevor, I'll say that they should be involved in influencing policies that deal with businesses, because most of us, the young people, we don't understand that there's politics behind the business as well. The fact that we were importing maize, and then the next day, because we're small guys, were told, no, you can't import maize, it's not allowed. So can you imagine if we were involved in the politics as well, would have lobbied and advocated for us to be allowed to continue, because this was our livelihood. But because as Zimbabweans just say, you know what, let me just leave it, doesn't matter, I'll move on to the other business, not realizing that, for you to do anything, you need to be involved, know which minister to talk to, advocate that, for young people, if you guys are closing this door or this opportunity for us, where do you want us to go? So I always encourage young people to be involved, and as much as you're in business, which is a good thing, also be involved in like sit at the table where they make decisions. When they talk about statutory instruments, make sure that you're also there saying, you know what, this will not help us, this will work against us, because I believe that other races, they do it without us knowing. Because I know one man that I spoke to when we were bringing in maize, he spoke to me, he said, you know what, as long as you guys don't have a relationship with the government, sometimes you get closed out. So we as young people, I feel like we need to find a way where we also advocate, to say, listen, this is what we want to do as young people, whether it's mining or agriculture or, export, we need to be there to influence and not just think that, you know what, other people make decisions for us. We need to be involved in decision making, and also to study. Sometimes we jump into businesses without really studying how businesses work. We just think, you know what, I'm a hustler, because I feel like in Zimbabwe we're all hustlers, but there's a difference between a hustler and an entrepreneur. So I feel like young people need to study the art of entrepreneurship in Zimbabwe. I wish I had done that. I love to study, but I feel like I do not study a lot when it comes to entrepreneurship. So I advise them to study, understand the business, understand how entrepreneurship works, understand how you can influence the policies that can affect you tomorrow, and not always wait for things to happen and then you start to react. Because I think most of our business in Zimbabwe, we are always reactionary. We're not involved in crafting policies that are pro business, so I advise young people to be involved so that they craft policies that are pro young people, pro entrepreneurship, pro innovation.
Samkeliso, so you're also outspoken when it comes to issues of human rights and a better Zimbabwe. Do you think your voices are being heard?
I think they hear us, but they pretend not to hear us, because I see how young people get arrested. I see young people like Makomborero who got arrested. I see Joanna. I see Cecilia. I see young people from Bulawayo, the MRP9. And you can see that they're hurt some way. But the thing is, are they willing to hear? I feel like our leaders, when they approach us or when they hear us, they hear from a place of being defensive and not trying to understand or to empathize with us. So we may speak, we may be loud, we may be outspoken, and they to them it's noise. Let me put it that way. To them it's noise. So I wish if they could see us, as young people that are not just here trying to make noise or to cause division, but young people who believe that, this is our country and this is where we belong and we want better for Zimbabwe. Trevor, I don't think anyone will be out here making noise if Zimbabwe was functioning properly. The reason why we speak is because we want a better Zimbabwe. And I wish our leaders could understand that, we're not against Zimbabwe. We love Zimbabwe. I know for a fact that I love my country. I would not have come to Bulawayo, to Zimbabwe if I hated my country. And I'm not saying that those who live in Zimbabwe hate their country. They are away because Zimbabwe is not functioning well. So I wish our leaders could really have an ear that hears. You can have an ear and don't hear. I wish they could have an ear that hears. They hear us, but it's noise to them. But they need to hear us in a way that noise becomes very clear that, young people, this is what they want. They want human rights to be respected. They want employment. They want rule of law. They want the Constitution to be respected. It's not against them. It's us wanting things to be done in a way that they would have wanted them to be done if they were in our shoes. That's what I feel. I feel like they're here, but they don't want to hear exactly what we're saying.
So that's interesting. They hear you, but they don't want to hear exactly what you're saying. They hear you, but they hear noises. So how are we going to get to a better Zimbabwe, Samkeliso? if they hear you, but they're not getting exactly what you want to say, and they are saying that you're making noise? How do we get to a new Zimbabwe, or a better Zimbabwe, as you say, if we don't listen to the generation that's going to inherit this country?
For me, Trevor, I think everything starts with empathy. We'll not always agree, we'll not always see the things the same way, but at least we should have empathy towards each other. Like, okay, what are you really saying? Let me sit down and try to understand where you are coming from. But I feel like our leaders have not taken time to say, okay, let me put on the shoes of empathy and try to understand where these people are coming from and what they're saying. And once they get that, and also to understand that the way we feel is the same way that they felt when they were young, and they feel like, you know what, we deserve better, we want more, we want a functioning economy, we want to be included, we want land, we want all these things. But I think sometimes, privilege blinds us. So when you hear people saying, you know what, we're not happy, privilege makes you think, what are these people talking about? These people are just making noise for me. But when you wear the shoes of empathy, you remove, the coat that you have of privilege, and you say, you know what, let me be humble. Let me come down to their level and understand. And I think once we get that, once we put on the empathy jacket, I think we'll have dialogues, or we'll start to engage in a different way. And I feel like our leaders should also stop seeing things, or our voices, or our engagement as an attack. It's not an attack. I get disappointed because we've made it A versus B. And you are the enemy, you are the what. But in all honesty, Trevor, I believe we all want a better Zimbabwe, whether it's ANU-PF, MDC, APA, we all want a better Zimbabwe. We want a Zimbabwe where we can thrive. Because, Trevor, I always say to myself, if I were in a different country, the way that I work, my work ethic, I think right now I could also be among, millionaires in other countries. But here we can't, because of all the the challenges that we face. And I wish our leaders could really put themselves in our shoes. Would they want this for themselves? Would they want this for themselves? Put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Tell me, so I share your views around, they don't hear you, they don't put on the jacket of empathy and the shoes of empathy. And my question is, do you think that the youth, their approach could be also the reason why you're not heard?
I think we have tried every approach. I'm trying to think which better way, because I feel like the reason why we are where we are today and the approach that we're now using is because we've been frustrated, Trevor. I'm 36 years old, Trevor. I don't have a house, I don't own a house that has my name on it. But my parents, I believe when they were 36, they had houses. I don't have a house, and how many young people are here where I am today? There's so many, and they've been lenient, they've been patient, they've been saying, our government, please listen to us, our leaders, we want jobs, we want all these things. So when you keep saying things and you're not heard, what happens? You become frustrated, you become angry. So our tone right now might not be the tone that they're looking for, but they should understand, why are they now angry? It's because we've been asking for too long. We've been knocking doors for too long. We've been humble for too long. We've been told, you are children, so you need to learn how to speak to your parents. But imagine if your parent keeps abusing you. And I hate to use this, the parent, because we are not their children. These are our leaders. These are people that are meant to serve us. But imagine if it was my mom and my dad, and I kept saying, Mama, I'm not happy about this, I need this, and they're not delivering. You start to get angry. You start to get frustrated. And most of the young people right now, Trevor, they're very frustrated. And our leaders need to understand that it's not to disrespect them, but this is ours. This is our nation. And I feel like we need and we deserve, to benefit from this pie that we call Zimbabwe, because where do we go? No one wants to be a foreigner in other countries. We want to be home. So I think our voices and our approach, it comes from our leaders not hearing us, our leaders not wanting to understand where we're coming from. If they took time to understand, I think our approach would be different, because I think we use different weapons depending on the fight that we're fighting. if our leaders respected us as well, I think we'll use a different tone and a different language. But we've been asking Trevor, as I said, I'm 36 years old and I have nothing to my name, and I'm frustrated. And I know young people are more frustrated as well. So they need to understand the reason why we're using this approach.
Mm-hmm. And tell me, there's a sense, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the majority of young people are interested in entertainment and frivolous issues. I've seen some of this in your timeline, Samkeliso, and not interested in issues that will change their political and economic fortunes. Am I right? Do you get the sense, Samkeliso?
I do, but you know what? I at first, I did not understand. I used to get frustrated, like, why? You know how Hopeful feels right now? I used to be like that, I used to get frustrated. Then I started to ask myself, why though? Why are young people not interested? And you start to think back that, what? These young people, they've been in this situation, they've been in this Zimbabwe. They don't know anything else. They don't know that you can have water every day. You can have electricity every day. You deserve jobs. They don't understand. And our biggest mistake, Trevor, as well, we've made people to believe that if you want to speak concerning Zim or politics, you have to be an activist. And the people that are speaking out, they're getting paid. Mm-hmm. And also that, leave these things for politicians. So we say one thing to these young people, and then the next minute we expect them to be involved. They can't, because when we say to people, every young person be involved, no, leave young people, they can't speak. These are for you people. This is your career. No, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business person. The reason why I'm speaking out is because I know it's my right. Because even in the Constitution, as a citizen, it's your responsibility to speak. It's your responsibility to demand. It's your responsibility to say to the government, A and B doesn't work. We need to change this. So most young people, they have not understood that this is your right. They think, it's for politicians, it's for activists. So that's why you find young people being involved in things that don't matter, because for so long, imagine every year, every month, every day, you're told that, leave these things for politicians, So now you're trying to make them unlearn something that even their parents say to them, leave these things for politicians, leave these things. Because even when I started speaking out, my mom was not comfortable, Trevor. And I had to say to her, listen, Dada went to war when he was young. So he did his role. And I'm going to play my part as well. I'm going to speak, I'm going to say, and I'm going to shout, and I'm going to demand, because I saw my father do it when he went to, well, I didn't see him do it, but I know that he was a war veteran. So meaning that he was very responsible. He knew his role in Zimbabwe, in wanting a better Zimbabwe. So I'm also playing my role. And I wish young people could get that you have to play a role in wanting a better Zimbabwe, in demanding a better Zimbabwe. And you can't delegate. I feel like, Trevor, we delegate responsibility to other people. We wait for Hopo, we wait for Tandegile, we wait for Makomborero, we wait for Fadzai, we wait for Chamisa. We have not understood that it takes each and every one of us to play our part. And I'm not saying this to say people should revolt, but I'm saying just being involved in issues that matter. When you talk about service delivery, you'll be shocked. It's always the same young women, because other young women have not understood that, it's your right to go to council and say, how come I don't have water? I pay, rates. How come I don't have this? But we're always waiting for a certain group of people to do it for us. So I believe that as a collective, even as individuals, we need to start teaching young people, teaching our friends and our relatives that, it's your responsibility to speak. It's our responsibility to demand. You'll be sure that when you talk about corruption in Zimbabwe and the figures, most of the people that I even play with, people that I hang around with, they don't even know. And you realize, it's because we have told people to operate in a Zim, in this society where they don't care about what's happening. So we have a long way to go, and we need to work really, really hard. And it's even people who support ZANU-PF, there are young people who support ZANU-PF, but when it comes to issues like social accountability, they are clueless, because they feel like if I vote for ZANU-PF, it's done. But you still need to demand your leaders to deliver on certain things. So we still have a long way, Trevor, very long way. And I don't blame the young people that are engaging in entertainment things. I also do it on Twitter, but at the end of the day, I have to remind myself that, you know what, I need to speak, I need to look for my leaders, I need to engage, because it's my right and it's my duty. You know, Zimbabwe is my company, as I said, and if I want it to work well, I need to be involved.
So when we started, Samkeliso, you said you are a woman who wants more, and indeed that comes through as you're talking. I mean, that must present a frustration of some sort, given the kind of experience that you're encountering every day. Talk to me about that place of wanting more and being in this kind of environment that you're in right now. What has it done to you?
Trevor, I get frustrated. Like, I think sometimes I feel like I'm bipolar, because like my moods, they swing from high to low. Because as I said, I think I did mention that if I were in another country, I would be a millionaire by now, because I work really hard, Trevor. And I'm not saying this to, you know, to make myself feel important, but I know that I work hard, and I've had people speak on my work ethic. So I want more, you know. I believe that there's more that I can achieve, you know, in Zim or anywhere else. But then you are here in Zim, where even when you're trying, when you're crawling or you're walking, you're running, there's always a ceiling, you know, where you are like, you're told this is where you go, you can't go higher. And for you to even go higher, you have to be associated with politician A or politician B. And it's frustrating for me, because I always say to friends of mine that how I do my things now, I'm very mindful that I want to be a leader. Maybe one day I want to be the vice president of Zimbabwe. So I don't want to get certain things from politicians or for whoever, you know, so that I keep quiet, because that will have an impact on my tomorrow. So it gets to be frustrating, because I know that I deserve A and I deserve B, but I can't get it because of who I am and what I say, and because of the policies that are not very pro entrepreneurs in Zimbabwe or young women. So I get really frustrated, I get demotivated. And sometimes, like, I think I didn't mention that sometimes I'm like, why did I come back? But if it weren't for my purpose and knowing why I'm here, I would have given up, or I would have left Zim long time ago. But it's very frustrating. I wish people understand. I get frustrated. You know, I even have migraines some days when I think about Zim, and I'm like, you know what, I could be fine life. You know, I could really be fine life. You know, there's a guy on Twitter. There's a time when he DM'd me and said, you know, Samu, you are so stupid. You could be very far. You are very clever. You are very smart. You're a go-getter. If you're in South Africa or in any other country, you would have been very, very far. But you're chosen to be in Zimbabwe, to complain and to shout every day. But, you know, at the end of the day, sometimes you're just like, you know what, my purpose, no one can ever understand your purpose, but it's not easy, Trevor. I don't want to lie. It's not easy. You know, you want more in terms of, you want to grow. I want to grow in every area of my life. You know, I want to grow as a person. I want to grow financially, and I'm struggling to grow financially. I want to also be able to get into businesses and not always rely on my connections. You know, that if I don't have a connection in this area, then I will not make it. You know, I don't like that at all. I want to be able to get into these spaces because I've worked hard for them and because I deserve to be there.
Tell me, is there anything that you're grateful for, given all this frustration that you've just outlined now?
I'm grateful for the spaces, you know, that I've been given, and for, you know, Trevor, I always get amazed when I get messages from people and they say I inspire them and that I influence them, because I never saw myself as someone who gets to influence anyone. So that's what I'm grateful for, that even in the midst of all this, there's someone who's looking at me and they think, oh my goodness, this girl inspires me to speak, or this girl inspires me to try something. So that's what I'm grateful for. Besides my mom, my sister, my family, and my friends, I'm grateful for these spaces. And I think when you called me asking me to be part of this, I was very, you know, humbled. I was like, me of all people. So this humbles me a lot, you know, being given this platform and being able to do what I do and speaking out on Twitter, and I've not been attacked, I'm still safe. So I'm very, very grateful because other young women have not had this privilege that I have. And also waking up every day, I'm very grateful. Like every day, I make sure that I send 3 things that I'm grateful for to my friend, because I know that being in Zim in this time is very frustrating. And having a support system, Trevor, I have an amazing support system. When I'm down, I have mentors that pull me up and they remind me of what they believe God called me to do. So I'm super, super grateful for the support system that I have. And I've met amazing people on Twitter that also encourage me. They say the kindest things, the nicest things ever. And they don't understand that those are the things. I always say to my friends that those are love letters from God to me. They will not be knowing that they're doing that, but I always say, God, thank you for sending this person, using this person to send me a love letter. Those are the things that I'm grateful for because they keep me going. They keep me excited and they give me energy to continue, because in Zimbabwe, if you don't have a strong support system and people who speak into your life, you can really get depressed and you'll not make it.
I know God plays an important role in your life. You are a preacher and you say being on the pulpit gives you meaning and purpose. Talk to me about the meaning of God and faith in your life, Samkeliso.
God is very instrumental in my life. He's very important. I don't think I'll be here if it weren't for God. When I look at my life, Trevor, how everything has played out, I see the hand of God. I've made so many mistakes and I keep making mistakes, but I've seen how God orders my steps and I see the favor as well. So I believe God has really played an important part. I believe he's the one. Even me sitting down talking to you, I see the hand of God more than anything else. I was saying to a friend of mine today that, you know what, there's so many amazing young people out there that do more great work, incredible work than I have ever done, but they have not been invited to this space. And I'm like, God, who am I that you're mindful of? So God is very important. I'm a person of faith. I believe. And I'm a person who prays. I'm still a sinner though, so I don't want people to say, but I saw you. I'm a work in progress, but I will not change my life for anything. It's been a journey. And I read my Bible every day. It keeps me sane, even before our time together, I even prayed, I said, God, just be there. We need your presence. So God has been very, very, very instrumental. And if it went for my belief, I think I would have died long time ago. It is God who wakes me up every day. So, and the thing that I do, actually, I always think of the person that I'm serving and I see it as serving God. That's why I always avoid taking things or what do I say? Getting things from a politician, because I'm like, you know what? I'll not want any man to get the glory but God, so it shapes the decisions that I make now, and me being mindful of where I believe God is taking me. So I'm always like, God, you know where you want to take me. So I have to be careful of the decisions that I make now. Unlike before when I was young, I did not care. But now I'm like, if I want you to get the glory, I have to watch my steps and I have to be careful of who I associate myself with and who I am connected to, because it can be tricky. Remember, I said one day, who knows, I could be the VP.
Or you could be the president, not the VP.
Hey, anything is possible.
Yeah.
I can.
Samkeliso, we love books on this show. Viewers out there in Zimbabwe, on the continent, and all over the world watch this show in particular to hear what book recommendations our guests have. What books have you read that have had a huge impact on you that you'd want to recommend to our book-loving viewers?
All right, I had to put my books on the side. I love this book, Trevor, by Sunyati. the gold diggers. I'm a believer in storytelling and in documenting our own stories. So I love how she captured, the stories of young people who migrate to South Africa, looking for gold, looking for a better life. It's so beautiful. And I urge our leaders actually to get this book, because you get to experience their journeys and understand that, our people, the price that they pay just to go to South Africa for a better life is painful. But I love this book. It's heartbreaking, but I believe that every person in Zimbabwe, and especially our leaders, they need to get hold of this book. The Gold Diggers is one of my favorites. And I think I felt in life.
All right.
But this book changed my life. Failing Forward by John Maxwell. I love this book, Trevor, because it inspired and challenged me to continue. You know how we always look at people who fail and be like, there's nothing for you anymore. But Maxwell says you fail forward. You don't fail and then you sit back. You continue, you move. And I'm that person. I fail forward. I don't sit down. I don't wait. I keep it moving, like how I was doing water business, and someone else would have given up, but I kept it moving. I always strive to learn and to do better. So I recommend this book. I've had this book forever. It's one of my favorite books. This I've got from my mentors, actually. They thought I needed this book.
Sapiens.
And I did. Yes, Sapiens. And my favorite, actually, there's a chapter that talks about the discovery of ignorance, and it's my favorite topic ever. And I always teach people, for you to learn, you have to acknowledge that you're ignorant. All of us are ignorant, Trevor. No matter how much we think we are smart and intelligent, all of us are ignorant in something. And if you don't acknowledge that, you can never learn. So I recommend this book, especially the part on the discovery of ignorance. Discover your ignorance. And
the last one?
This one is my last one. By Nate Booth. It's on Tiger Woods, actually. I love this book. You can read it over and over again. It's called Tiger Traits. And I recommend this to young leaders. It's very powerful. I got this book, I think it was like 10 years ago. It's very, very good. I recommend this book. It teaches you about how Tiger Woods started and the traits that he has, that made him get to be where he is today. And I think for leaders, young leaders, I recommend this, to continue, to learn and to be better. And this is my favorite, 9 Success Secrets. Yeah, wonderful. I love this book. Yeah, wonderful. Those are my books.
Wonderful. Samkeliso, thank you so much. It's been so inspiring talking to you. I love talking to young, energetic, big thinkers as young as you are. You're 36. And I think instead of aiming for being vice president, you should be aiming to be president one day. Samkeliso, thank you so much. Keep on talking. Keep on being courageous. Zimbabwe needs young people like you if we're to build a better country. Thank you for giving us this opportunity. We don't take these opportunities for granted. Allow me, Samkeliso, to tend to our viewers who are all across the world in Zimbabwe, on the continent, in the diaspora, who watch this show every week, to say thank you for making this show the success that it has become. We've added podcasts at the bottom of this video, so scroll down and click onto the link for the podcast. We come out weekly, 7 a.m. Central African time on Mondays, so don't miss out. And to make sure you don't miss out, please click on this subscribe button, press there, you'll get an alert every Monday when we have one of these quality shows. Until next time, cheers to you all.